Hey folks, Dr. Joe Esposito here. I am so glad you're with us today. We're going to talk today about certain foods that you're eating, surprising foods that may be raising your cholesterol. Now, the number one drug that we see patients coming in our offices taking is high blood pressure medication. The number two drug we see is cholesterol medication. And I'm finding more and more that doctors are using it kind of as a prophylactic. They just kind of throw it out there. Hey, you know what? Take some cholesterol medication. No big deal. Couple of things if you're on cholesterol medication. Number one, never come off a medication without checking with the doctor who prescribed it. I cannot take you off your medication. It's not my job. However, cholesterol is made in the liver, and there's an enzyme in your liver that produces cholesterol. That same enzyme also controls the production of something called CoQ10 or coenzyme Q10. Coenzyme Q10 is necessary for every single cell in your body to function, directly or indirectly. Because what happens is CoQ10 gets into the cell and it feeds the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. It's a part of the cell that generates energy. And so it's vital that the cells get the CoQ10. The same enzyme that produces cholesterol produces CoQ10, so your CoQ10 levels traditionally drop if you're on a statin drug. So what does that mean? You might get tired, you might have fatigue, you might have muscle weakness. The danger is that you need this CoQ10 for the muscles to contract. Well, your heart needs CoQ10. So in an ironic twist, we're lowering our cholesterol to prevent heart disease, but we may be weakening the heart because we're not giving it CoQ10. So if you take statin medications, I do recommend you take CoQ10 as well. Had a patient come in just the other day, and he said, Dr. Joe, I heard you talk about this, or maybe I did a private consult with him, I don't remember. And he said, I brought it up to my cardiologist, he said, why didn't you tell me to take CoQ10? And the cardiologist said, oh, I forgot. So didn't argue, just said, I forgot. Well, it's kind of important that your cardiologist remember to put you on the drugs to give you that. Now, I love cardiologists. I think they're brilliant. They saved my father's life. But we all need a little reminder every now and then. So if you are taking statin drugs, make sure you ask your cardiologist, hey, I should also be taking CoQ10, correct? And it's relatively inexpensive, and so I think you'll be very happy with that result. That being said, let's talk about foods that surprisingly can raise your cholesterol level. How about foods labeled low cholesterol? Many times, this is a little ploy, because they still use saturated fats. You could get saturated fats from like coconut oil, for example. Coconut oil is a saturated fat. However, the chemical bond in the saturation is very weak. So the body has an easier time breaking it up and digesting it. It does, let's say, steak fat or chicken fat. But many times they'll use other saturated fats in place of cholesterol, and that can be bad. So just watch the ingredients, low cholesterol, no cholesterol. I mean, water doesn't have cholesterol. I can label water cholesterol free. But look at the ingredients. Do you see hydrogenated oil, saturated fats, trans fats? These are things you really don't want to eat. And a lot of places have banned them, but sometimes they still sneak in. How do we know an oil is a trans fat or not? It gets hard at room temperature. Coconut oil gets hard at 72 degrees. Okay? Butters. Margarines. So you got to keep them cold to keep them solid. That's how you kind of know it's not the best fat. So chicken fat, steak fat, not the good kind of fat. There are some good fats out there. We'll talk about that. Coffee. Morning cup of coffee can actually raise your cholesterol if you're using a French press or Turkish coffees. It lets through something called cafestol, and that can raise your low-density lipoproteins. Espresso does too, but the serving sizes are smaller, so you don't have to worry about it. So if you drink coffee, make sure you use a filter. The non-filter is the issue because the cafestol gets through, and that can raise your cholesterol level. A filter is going to filter it out. If you do drink coffee with a filter, I do recommend you get ones that don't have bleach in them because many times those white filters that are so pretty are bleached. And so we try to keep bleach and chlorine out of our lives the best we can because chlorine is an antibiotic that can kill off good bacteria. Again, is that enough to kill you? Probably not. But we're going to do all the little things that nobody else is doing. You know, if you ever listen to any success coaches, what do they say? You're going to do the little things that nobody else is doing, and that's what creates success. Doesn't mean that you're better looking, doesn't mean you're smarter, doesn't mean you're taller. It means you're doing the things that other people aren't doing. So if you want to have extreme health, we do little things that other people aren't doing. And one of them would be, if you're going to use a coffee filter, you shouldn't be drinking coffee anyway. It's going to be organic, hopefully. It's going to be organic decaffeinated, hopefully, because it's regular decaffeinated. They use petroleum products to decaffeinate it. And you're going to use a non-bleach filter. Filter doesn't have to be white. You're throwing it away anyway. They're usually beige if you use the natural ones. But coffee can actually raise your cholesterol if you're not using a filter on it. And if you drink a little bit of espresso, again, a little bit of cafestol, a lot of espresso, a lot of the chemicals. So. How about Thai food? How can Thai food raise your cholesterol? Well, of course, if you're eating meats in it, of course, and shrimp and things like that. But Thai food uses coconut oil. Now, again, it's of all the things out there, this is the least of your concerns. Because the coconut oil, again, is a loosely saturated fat, not going to be a big issue. So it's not the same as steak fat. But that being said, if you do like Thai food, and I do, I want to make sure that you order it always no fish sauce. Thai food notoriously has fish sauce in it. Fish sauce is a high concentration of glutamic acid, essentially monosodium glutamate. And monosodium glutamate or glutamic acid is what's called an excitotoxin to the brain. It causes the brain to fire faster than it's supposed to and can actually burn out your brain cells. Also, we covered headaches earlier. Big trigger for headaches, monosodium glutamate. So I can't do monosodium glutamate. I can't do caffeine. Both of them give me headaches. So I realized this when I went to my favorite Thai restaurant many years ago. And I finally correlated the fact that when I went to my Thai restaurant, I got a headache. So I said, no fish sauce. They did a good job. One day I went in, I said, no fish sauce, absolutely. And they know me in this one restaurant. They know who I am. And if you're listening, hi guys, you know who you are. And there was fish sauce in there. I could taste it. And I said, I think there's fish sauce in here. Nope, no fish sauce. Okay, blazing headache the next day. So I've got to be really careful. If something tastes like fish sauce, I just got to get tough enough to say, you know what, take this back, bring me something different. Because it was a day of my life wasted because I had such a blazing headache. Now, the chef might not understand no fish sauce. Maybe it wasn't communicated properly. It wasn't malicious. And I always say things oftentimes aren't malicious. They're just stupid. And so if something goes wrong, it's not that somebody's notoriously out to get you. It's just that you just shouldn't do that. It was a mistake. And so then I had to suffer for it. So just be careful with Thai food because of the fish sauce. It can be very, very dangerous for you. Granola, sometimes they use coconut oil in there. Granola is not really a health food because it's usually loaded with sugar or honey or maple syrup. So it's really, really, really sweet. And it has fats in it. So if you want something quick and easy, what I do is I have some organic oatmeal in my pantry and just old-fashioned oatmeal. Old-fashioned oatmeal is cooked already. Because what happens is you have the whole oat, and then it's chopped up in smaller pieces called groats, Groats. Groats then are steamed and flattened out to make old-fashioned oats. And then old-fashioned oats are put in a food processor and ground up to make instant oats. So groats would be the best choice. Whole oats or groats would be the best choice. Takes a long time to cook. Sometimes it's a little chewy. If you're going to do old-fashioned oats, they're already cooked. So you can just take old-fashioned oats, put a little coconut milk, almond milk, soy milk on top of it with some raisins and make a quick cereal. It's called muesli. Years ago when I graduated college, this guy Pete, who I really barely knew, he and I bicycled the United Kingdom. It was a lot of fun. And staying in hostels and meeting other people. Here I was 23 years old. It was so cool. My first time, really getting into Europe and experiencing it. And it was so much culture that I'd never seen before. But one of the things they had for breakfast cereals in these little hostels we stayed in was muesli. Had never heard of it before. And basically it's rolled oats, maybe some dried fruit, some dried nuts, and that was a cereal. I said, I really like this. So you can make your own muesli real quickly, or natural organic dried fruit. Don't use non-organic. It has sulfites in it usually. Sulfites can trigger headaches and cause cancer. So mix it up yourself, or just oats and raisins is fine. Quick meal, quick, easy, simple, cheap. So that would be a much better choice instead of using something like granola. Shrimp. Shrimp are loaded with what? Cholesterol. One serving, even if you cook out the fat, is about 190 milligrams of cholesterol. American Heart Association recommends limiting your cholesterol to about 300 milligrams a day. So that's almost your whole dose, and only 200 milligrams a day if you have heart disease. All right, American Heart Association. Here's a suggestion. If we know that eating animal fats can lead to heart disease, why do you recommend any animal fats for people that have heart disease or at the risk of heart disease? I don't understand it. I do understand it. I lied to you. Well, if you're going to do it, this is a better choice. Like I negotiate with you. I negotiate with you guys all the time. But if I have heart disease, I shouldn't be eating any animal products. It's just that simple. And the research has been done time and time and time again on heart disease. Sinatra, Esselstyn, and Greger has reviewed some of that stuff. These are all medical researchers. And the research is very clear. McDougall is kind of like the godfather of it all. You can reduce or eliminate heart disease in most patients by doing one thing: a plant-based diet. Oh my gosh. You mean there's research out there showing that you reduce or eliminate the need for medications and maybe reduce or eliminate heart disease altogether? And I can do that on my own and it costs me nothing to do? The answer is yes. So look up McDougall, look up Esselstyn, look up Sinatra. These are all medical doctors, and you'll be amazed. The research is clear as day in most cases. Why do we even have an American Heart Association if we found the answer? I don't know that. And that's a political statement right there. I'm just getting a little fired up. And the reason I'm fired up is my father died of heart disease. And nobody ever told him what I just told you. And the research, again, wasn't done at that time, but it's done now. So I'm a little passionate about heart disease because I lost my father. And I don't want you losing yourself or someone you love when the answer's out there. Read the research. It's not me. Read what the medical researchers are saying. It's really clear. I talked about this the other day, the disconnect between the research and healthcare. And I'm not sure I understand it because the research is very clear. I read research. It's what I do. I read it all day, every day. It's what I do. This morning, my internet was down. Oh my gosh, I couldn't read. Lost my mind. The research is there. Chiropractic, most effective, least expensive treatment for back pain. Why isn't that the portal of entry for all back pain patients? I don't understand it. Why is it that we have people with heart disease and we know that a plant-based diet is by far the most effective non-invasive treatment for heart disease? Why isn't that portal of entry? Somebody comes in with heart disease, okay, we're going to put you on a plant-based diet. You have back pain, neck pain. We're going to have you see Dr. Joe or some other very highly qualified chiropractor, and let's see if we can reduce this or eliminate and get to the cause of the problem, not just treat the symptoms. So there is a major disconnect in healthcare, and I'm working on it. Believe me, I'm working on it. Trying to get the word out there. And here's the thing, doctors are not malicious. Famous man once said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." I have doctors all day, every day come to me. I taught a class the other day. Over 100 different doctors from all over the world were there. I was the lead instructor. And they say, "Doc, we never heard this before. We had no idea this existed." Wow, thank you for telling us. So there's no little, coven of doctors sitting around, stirring a big pot of witch's brew and saying, ha, 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 we're going to keep people on drugs. No, the doctors want to get you well too. Many times they just don't know. And so that's where we're doing these shows. That's why we do these lectures. That's why I write my books. We're trying to get the word out there that there are answers. And I learn new things every day. I was at a seminar last weekend, and there's a way to adjust inside the sinuses using a balloon technique where you put a balloon up there and you inflate it like a finger cotton. You inflate it, and it can move the sinuses. Never heard of it before. So there's always new stuff out there. Nobody's going to know everything. But I will try to give you as much information as I can so that you can make more informed decisions as a patient. It'll probably save you money. It'll probably save you time. Hopefully it'll save your life. No reason not to do these things. If it doesn't work, great. We can always have surgery. I think surgery should be a last resort. We should go through what I call escalation of care. Let's try these different things before we get to the end game. Let me get off my soapbox here for a second. Flour tortillas, refried beans. Many times we use what? Lard, fat, animal fat. And so you got to be careful. Years ago, when I first went plant-based, this was, 1985 or so, 1986. There was a problem because if you went to a Mexican restaurant, many times they had lard in the beans, they had lard in the tortillas. Now that's kind of changed. It's loosened up a little bit. So one thing you can do is you can have a flour tortilla, a corn tortilla, instead of a flour tortilla. The corn ones don't have a lard in them. So that's a better choice. If you could do organic corn tortillas, better still, because a lot of corn is genetically modified, and that's a whole nother lecture. But it's a heck of a lot better than eating lard. And you could always ask which beans don't have animals in them. Sometimes a lot of the mom and pop Mexican restaurants, the refried beans are fine. Some of them do have lard. I was at a grocery store the other day, and I was looking, and the grocery store brand had lard in it. And then they had Taco Bell brand next to it, no lard. So Taco Bell beans, by the way, are safe. So read the ingredients. Try to stay away from the lard. Of course, that can raise your cholesterol levels up. If you do a flour tortilla with beans and lard and then shrimp, you're just shoving cholesterol into your liver. I don't know why you would do that, especially since there's options. If there's no other option, that's okay. It's like with medications. If there's no other options, you could use this medication. If there's options that are safer, it's highly recommended you use the safer alternative. Same thing with this. Organ meats. Again, I grew up in Hoboken, New Jersey, and there used to be the peddler used to come around just about every day, and the peddler had a big truck open in the back, and he had kind of angled, and he had case cartons of fruits and vegetables. And you'd go out, you'd pick whatever you wanted, he'd weigh it, kind of estimate, you'd give him a couple of bucks, and you'd walk off. There was also the butcher who came around. Now, my grandmother and grandfather, my German grandparents, ate organ meat. So one of the things they made me eat was liver. I used to like chicken liver, I'm going to be honest with you. And in Marietta, Georgia, there's a place called the Big Chicken. And when I first came to Georgia, I went to the Big Chicken because I heard about it, and I had chicken livers. The last time I had chicken livers, I remember them. They were good, though. Tasty. They weren't good for you. But think about this. The liver is a filter. All the toxins and waste products and poisons and chemicals filters through the liver. And then you eat it. Well, my grandmother used to say, well, it's high in iron. Well, it was high in iron, but also it had a lot of toxic chemicals in it. But that's before the word organic was even used. All the meats were organic. Cows are fed grass. And so the organs were a lot cleaner. She tried making me eat tongue. I think I might have eaten it once. I don't remember. But she would eat brain, and I had kidneys already. Don't like them. But organ meats are just loaded with cholesterol. So please, folks, if you have any concern for your liver, don't eat organ meats. Don't eat meats, but don't eat organ meats especially. So, again, 3 ounces a month is okay. Well, you probably shouldn't do it at all. Margarine, we talked about this earlier, hardened butters or hardened fats at room temperature. Margarine is made from vegetable oils. Vegetable oils contain unsaturated good fats, polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, and these can help reduce cholesterol. But then they add something called trans fat in there. Trans fat is what makes the margarine a stick or a spreadable. And so the trans fats are the things that are so dangerous for your liver. So if I had to choose, God, I hate to make this decision. If I had to choose, I'll give you an option. Butter, margarine, or plant-based butter, I would go with the plant-based butter. And there's some good ones out there. Ones I like the flavor of. Earth Balance is pretty good. There's another one I had recently, and it's okay. And again, you don't need a lot of it, but if you have to have something buttery, these are better choices. Definitely stay away from margarine. Years ago, I was doing a show. Man, this was a long time ago. 25 years ago, maybe? And I mentioned that, the number one cause of heart disease is trans fats, and that's margarine. And so margarine really can be linked to heart disease. And then a couple of weeks later, CNN did a report on how dangerous margarine is, and it's probably the number one cause of heart disease. And I remember talking to my mother after that, and she said, I'm not sure if you're a nut or a prophet. I haven't quite figured it out yet. And I said, probably a little bit of both, Mom. But stay away from margarines, please, at all costs. God. Well, the plant-based ones are better. Organic plant-based ones are the best. Butter, if you had to do butter versus margarine, I'd even say do butter over margarine. Try to do organic if you can. Okay. Read the nutrition label. Look for one that's low in saturated fats and no trans fats. Pretty simple. But we have plant-based butters that taste just as good as regular butter. Butter should be off the list forever. There's no need for butter in your diet anymore because science has come up with healthier, tastier, probably cheaper alternatives. No reason not to do it. It's like chiropractic care. Why isn't everyone in the chiropractic care? I don't know. It's more effective, less expensive. Same thing with a lot of these plant-based butters. Pastas. Now, I'm Italian. I don't do a lot of pastas. But a lot of times pastas will have cream sauces, fettuccinis, carbonaras, shrimp. Not good choices. Okay, pasta is not a good choice anyway because it's basically eating sugar. But I remember first time I went to Italy, and even with my grandparents, who were my father's parents were from Italy, pasta was not the meal. You had a little side dish of pasta, and then you had salads, then you had vegetables, and you had a little bit of meat, not a lot, just a little bit. And there was always fruit on the table, and there's always nuts. My grandfather would crack the nuts with his hand and feed them to everybody. And so salad was always at the end of the meal for those true Italians. But there were a lot of vegetables, a little bit of pasta, a little bit of meat, a little bit of cheese. What we've done is we've made pasta the main course, and then we throw cream sauces on it, and shrimp, and bacon, and meats, and oh my gosh. So folks, think smart. And if you have to have pasta, I mean, I like wheat pasta. I'm not going to lie to you. But you can do pastas now made with beans, bean powder, split pea powder, organic soy powder. They basically take the nuts, grind them up into a powder, the nuts or the beans, grind it up and make a flour out of it, and then make pasta out of it. Much better choice. Now, it doesn't taste exactly like wheat pasta. Try it, though. I think you can be very happy with the choice. Energy bars, a lot of times they're just loaded with saturated fats and sugars, and really a lot of energy bars are nothing more than candy bars in a fancy wrapper with a picture of a guy on a bicycle on it. So don't be drawn into something that's an energy bar. Probably going to be a lot of junk. In Indian cooking, there's something called ghee, Ghee. Now, what this is purified butter. What you do is, or clarified, they call it. They boil the butter. My friend Frank taught me this one back in college. He was a meditator. He'd studied with Guru Maharishi Hashish Yogi, and he taught me how to meditate. And so, again, coming to college was a big change for me because I grew up in a very bedroom community. My family were really tight. We didn't go out a lot. My father was disabled, so we didn't socialize a whole bunch. And I come into college, and people are doing meditation, and they're doing yoga, and they're doing English folk dancing. And it's like, what is this stuff? But ghee was introduced to me at the time. And what you do is you boil the butter, and the foam forms on the top. You keep scooping off the foam, and when the foam stops, it's been clarified. Still loaded with hormones, saturated fats. Not a good choice. Again, we have a substitute for butter. We have plant-based butters now, organic, and that's a much better choice. If you're thinking you're going to eat like fowl, let's say duck or geese, instead of red meat, that's better for you, not necessarily. Okay, a cup of duck or goose, even with the skin removed, is about 128 milligrams of cholesterol. Same portion of chicken is about 113, and turkey is about 93. So white versus red meats, not a whole lot of difference. They're still very bad for you. And of course, dairy products, we have substitutes for all the dairy products out there. We have butter, we have cheese, we have yogurt, we have ice cream. All exceptional, fine. So if you can, I want you to try to stay away from the dairy products, which I've been teaching you for a long time too. Because we know that meats and dairy products can be directly linked to heart disease. So why do that? Now, if you want to listen to a whole show we did on cholesterol, go to our website, drjoe.com, drjoe.com, type in the word cholesterol, and you could listen to a whole show we did strictly on cholesterol. Now, if you have a health issue, we would love to be your doctors. You can go to our website and search whatever you're looking for. Just type in the search bar. Chances are we've done a radio show or a blog or a podcast on it. And you could listen to it. And then after you listen to it, if you have questions, send us the questions through the website. A little bot pops up and says, hey, would you like to chat? Send us your question. Make sure you put your email in there. We'll get back to you as quickly as we can. If you want to make an appointment to come see us, you can do it right online. If you have questions, call us. The phone number's all over the website. We accept almost every insurance out there. Normally, the first visit for us is $720. We've reduced that to less than half, $299. Exam, x-rays, consultation, first adjustment, going over the x-rays, and a complete nutrition evaluation. If you're a podcast junkie, go to your podcast service and type in Dr. Joe for the health of it. Dr. Joe for the health of it. Hundreds of hours of podcasts, and on the website, drjoe.com, over 2,000 hours of podcasts. I'm Dr. Joe Esposito, drjoe.com. Tell your friends about the show.